I think I'm live. Alright, today I'm going to, in this stream I'm going to try to research some lines in Ruy Lopez, and that line could be, for start, something like A6 and exchange variation. Yeah, this one could be interesting to see. For example, castle and all this stuff with bishop g4, h3, and then h5. Because in my games I usually play bishop d6, and I got into some trouble after d4, and this line wasn't so pleasant to me, even though it's objectively fine, but I knew about this line for a long time, and for this fishing pole trick, and that you cannot take on g4, of course, because of hg, and when the knight moves you go queen h4 and have some checkmating threats. Oh, Toa, hello. Learning openings. So, I'm not sure what White's supposed to do here. The theory says h3 here, as you might see on the left side. No, this is not anything special for White. I'm just trying to find alternative for bishop d6. Of course, there's this. There's also d4 at move 5, but I want to check first what happens on castle. And after this, there's even bishop h5, but it's rarely played, I would say. And I think now White has to play principally and go g4, but this is quite playable for black, I would say. This queen h4, I think long castle after, oh, or not, f6. It says here knight g6, but wait, what happens if just knight d3? Oh, h5 might be a problem. If knight d3. Is it a problem? Also, I have to check my YouTube chat, because I'm streaming on Twitch and YouTube at the same time, so I would have to look for... Okay, no one is typing anything there, so I'm fine. But yeah, here it looks like h5 would give black a lot of play. Let me see the engine. Oh, I think I overdid it with the specs. Let's make it weaker. So let's see if I missed anything before. Aha, so it says bishop d6 or f6, but let's take a look at f6. And if he doesn't take, if he goes back to d3, or just h5. Yeah, I think this line is very good if you need a win, like like yesterday Nep or Fabi needed. I think it's a good way to play like this. But wait, what if you just go rook e1? What then? Bishop f7. So you might want to go to e6 to induce some change in the structure. Bishop f7, and what happens if e5? Wait. Oh, just long castle, yeah. Just long castle and e6, bishop e8. Aha, you might go with c5 and bishop c6 to even further make it dangerous. Yeah, we can also do this bishop h5 line. So g4, bishop g6, knight e5, and now it says bishop d6 is the best move, which is slightly surprising. Bishop d6 and now knight c4. Aha, knight c4 might lead to something similar. Queen h4, queen f3, h5. And probably just long castle. Wait, what did I do now? Uh-huh. Okay. Yeah, I think I will have more focus on h5 here. And then my idea is to go queen f6 and to have some unpleasant pin on the knight. So probably the most natural for white is to go d3 and on my queen f6 to have knight bd2. But now I know about g5 or knight e7 as options here. Oh, so on g5 you can now take on g4, which is quite interesting. Takes now rook e1 and takes king f1, and now what? Queen g6, queen e6, bishop. I don't like this position in the long run. f5 is weak. I think I would like something else. Even though at first it seems like there might be something, but okay, f5 weakness is not really a weakness. You can always go bishop d6, knight e7 and cover that, but I didn't sign up for this. How can I modify this? So let's say queen f6, knight bd2. Let's not be too committal here. Let's go knight e7 and knight g6 next. Knight e7, and then in case of rook e1, knight g6. I like this one more. And now if you take it, it's different, I would say. g3. Oh, and now in bishop c5. Wow, bishop c5 is good. And on king g2, just castle. Just wait forever. And he cannot untangle so easily, because if you go knight b3, there's gf and rook h2. So here he says rook h1, but alright, takes. Aha, in the end f2 hangs, I suppose. Yeah. So it turns out it's not so easy for white to play this. Let's see. Knight g6. What can white play? d4. d4 is the main move here. d4 and now knight f4. So what? Takes, queen g6. Oh, and now knight h4. It seems like it's ruining the game. Bishop d1, knight g6. Rook d1, long castle. It's some theory, but am I getting any play here? I don't think so. Okay, let's search for something else. Z Nation, hello. Yeah, he broke my heart as well. I was rooting for him, but what can you do? We can cry in silence. What is more enterprising here? Maybe bishop d6, including this bishop into some action. So if you take now, take knight h2, there's rook h2. And also some theories here. You can see Sholok against Šarić and a lot of good players playing this line. First of all, if you take, what happens? Queen takes, and then there's gonna be either ed4 or long castle. Or just king e7 maybe. Yeah, king e7 is much better. So you would have to go and not accept this poisoned rook, but take on g4, after which I guess he stabilizes if I go back to h8, knight f3, or and then just g3, king g2, bishop e3, and somehow he survives this. And then in the long run, this structure will tell. Z Nation, let me answer to your question. With the pawn on the 4th rank, no, I think you have to know the ones on the 5th, 6th, and 7th rank. I think on the 4th rank you just keep the king cut off, and well, even on the 5th, you don't have to know it, right? I mean, you just cut the 6th rank, and that's all the rules you need to know. And for the 4th, it's the same rules. So let's go back to this. Queen g4. On Queen g4, rook h4 seems more enterprising, but Queen f5, that's so annoying. Such an annoying move. Queen f5, and now I cannot take because he takes, and now e5 is vulnerable. Could I go king e7 here? King e7, knight f3 is a problem. Oh, that would be so bad. King e7, knight f3, and then bishop g5 next. No. I don't want any of that. So what? I have to exchange queens somehow. I mean, if I go queen e7, still knight f3 is quite unpleasant. And I'm on my back foot now. So let's try to find something that keeps fighting chances. But what can that be? Engine suggests knight f4, but we already took a look at that. Queen g6, knight h4. Let's see here. Queen e6, queen h6. What are the moves? Queen e7 doesn't do anything. Wait, queen e6, knight g5. Bishop d1, knight e6. I don't really see how do you fight here. Of course, this all depends with whom you're playing. If you're happy with a draw, or are you trying for something else. But if you want a win in the beginning, you don't want to start with this. I mean, you can make an advantage, but maybe at this point you want to mix it up with something like knight g7, I think it's called Cosio defense, or some Schliemann with f5. Something like that. Or even bishop c5 would offer some imbalance. But I'm so guilty of allowing people to make the game dull against me, so I had plenty of games with a6 against weaker opponents, and people were able to cause me trouble in terms of me creating some winning chances. And this is one of them, definitely. One of the lines that I don't really see how should I make it interesting. So maybe on the first move I should do something else, like play Sicilian, play something hyper modern. So even queen f6 here is the move, but it may just transpose to bishop g4, h3. So yeah, maybe I should go back to bishop h5 because I don't really see how to make it work if white knows what he's doing. But on bishop h5, if you do something slow like d3, I can go back to f7, let's say, and bishop d6, knight e7, and it almost looks like Rossolimo, but I'm much more improved. Aha, queen f6 is the recommendation in lots of chessable courses. You mean here, queen f6 and d4 takes bishop g5. This looks like a decent position compared to this one. Oh, sorry, castle bishop d6. I was trying to avoid this and d4 and whatnot. I mean, it's fine, but I just have too many games in database, so I want to mix things up a little bit. So yeah, let's maybe stick to this bishop g4. And if d3, just f6. It gives me some Prague Caruana vibes. I don't know why, but f6, h3, bishop h5, and then place pawn on c5. But yeah, here f6 is not even the main move. Queen f6 is the main move. Knight d2, knight e7, h3, let's say, and now h5. Do I have to play h5 really? What happens if I go back? Sorry, g4. This and knight c4, it says. Now this one drops. Yeah, it's a little bit disturbing, but I don't want to play h5. Because we entered the same line. So maybe I just go with this f6 idea. Just to keep things solid and bishop e3 and now c5 maybe. Get bishop to d6, knight to e7. And I do hope that the bishop pair will work out. Although knight d2, bishop d6, knight c4 takes, queen takes. All right, this is to my preference. Miguel. Yes, with queen f6 I don't have to play. So wait, queen f6. Yeah, if he plays d3, then I could play bishop knight e7. Yeah, you're right. Knight g6 and bishop d6, I suppose. Yeah, if white doesn't know what he's doing, then this can be quite unpleasant. So let's say this one. But I don't know, as I showed before, like when he knows what he's doing, it's quite annoying for black, I would say. If you go, what did I show? Knight e7, rook e1, knight g6. Yeah, this line. Tactics work out for black, but white survives. Queen g4 and on rook h4, queen f5. It's a little bit concerning. So I'm gonna try to do this line, actually. Bishop h5. And if he goes for d3, I go f6 and have the same Rostolimo-ish type of position. And if he bites the bullet and goes g4, then okay. You take on e5. And now queen h4 is the main theory move. But there's also bishop d6. Bishop d6. Oh, I cannot do it right now. Wait a second. I might just Oh, this is gonna take forever. Wait a second. Let me just open a new browser to type it in the chat. Oh no, I can't hear myself. That's not good. Wait a second. So this is the study. On YouTube I cannot send the link, sorry about that, but you can go to Twitch quickly and see the link. And now I can go back to the business. Maybe queen h4, queen f3, bishop d6. Oh, but there's e5. I have to go back. I cannot take because of rook e1. And now f5. Well, that's promising. That's promising some big fight, I would say. What do you think about this line for black? I would say black has good practical chances for some attack. Of course, when you see plus 0.6, it's not really appetizing or anything, but I would say in practical terms it's very, very attractive. It would be perfect if the knight could somehow get into the game, but that's the only maybe drawback of a potential attack. But you can always go knight h6, and if you manage to move this pawn, you're doing something right. Because whatever you do, whatever he does with this pawn, if he pushes the pawn, it's a good target. Knight f7, attack on g5, and then later on it might be that h3 will be even more vulnerable. So if he takes on f5, that opens up the f-file, so anyway the pawn moves. If it disappears, great. And I would say that white has some problems to solve here. And I would not go deeper into this line because it's just a big dark forest. So let's just stop here and let's see other options. So we told d3 f6 and we have quite a close position. After which I told we can go c5, bishop d6, knight e7 and play quite solidly. And I think we might also consider castling queenside there. Might. But what else besides g4 and d3? Oh, I remember now. There was this forced line c3, queen d3. Was it? Oh no, it was with h5. Ah, I wanted to show you this. c3, queen d3, hg, hg, knight e5, bishop d6, knight d3, and then bishop h2, and just checks forever. That's kind of cute, but I would say useless in this line. But maybe if we look at c3, let's see what's the better way to handle this. Queen f6, and then d4. Oh, maybe this is the way to play. Oh, takes, exchange. And at least now we have some targets, potentially. Takes, takes, long castle. I like this. I like this. Knight e7 with f5 to undermine the pawns. Yeah, these Rossolimo type of positions are very, at first sight, very dry looking, but they give a lot of possibilities. You're right. I mean, if you look at the game again from Caruana against Prague, it's a good example. Or plenty of games between Caruana and Carlsen from the World Championship. It was very rich with ideas. So yeah, this could be the way to fight the c3. And of course, if you need what's happening? If you need a draw, you can always resort to queen d3. And now white either allows you to capture on f3 and has a worse structure, or just takes on g4, and now knight hangs. So if you go to h2, there's g3. Quite strong. You cannot take because of bishop c5 check. And if king h1, queen g3 with checkmate on the next move. Unless you play queen h5 like the engine suggests. So basically there's no escape for the knight. I mean, if you go here, then rook h1 is a move to be scared of. And now knight f6 to defend the g4 pawn, so you can slowly but surely get attack by long castle, bishop d6, and the king is too weak. And white's pieces are too tangled up. Look at this. I mean... Oh yeah, even Nabasov did it. Yeah, you're right. The one which was a draw, and Vidit had some chances. That was also quite interesting. So let's go back. So c3, queen d3. We covered all the options that knight can jump to. I mean, it can go to g5 as well, but I think still... you can go bishop c5 now. And then queen g3 is a threat. And if you take on g4, then rook h1 again. This idea. And now what? Knight h6. Knight h6. Damn it. Queen f3, long castle maybe. And it should win. So yeah, c3, queen d3, if you go, there's no knight e5, just to be clear, because of bishop d1, and you're gonna win the exchange as black. It's not the end. I mean, white can fight on, definitely, but the exchange is exchange. You take on f1 and you have some edge. But once again, you can go for queen f6, and if d3, just take it on f3, and this should be good enough for a nice fight. So what happens if you take? What happens if you take? Can you take twice? This might be maybe too much to allow. But although a pawn is a pawn. I don't know. Bishop f4, bishop c5 it says. Maybe simply take. Don't overcomplicate. Takes, and as I showed before, castle knight e7 and f5, trying to break these pawns. Can you go g6 here? So bishop e3 and then g6. Maybe that's the way. It also seems interesting. Bishop g7, knight e7, and so on. I feel like this is good. I see plus 0.2, but I'm not sure why. I would say black is slightly more pleasant. But what do I know? What else can I do here? On bishop h5, let's take a look again at this line. Knight e5 and bishop d6, for example. If you go back, h5, and on g5, queen d7 with tempo, and then castle. And then f6, open up the king side and have a nice attack. This looks quite good. So you don't go back to f3, I suppose. I guess you take on g6, but then takes queen f3. This. And what? f5. Wow. So what's the point? On takes, just castle. Oh, if you take the second time, rook f8. And then the idea is to get knight e7, knight g6 or d5 and then jump to f4. That's pretty dangerous. As the eval bar also confirms. So you cannot take twice on g6. You have to play it calmly with d3, but I don't know, I would be scared to play with white here. Some rook f8, knight e7. This looks so good for black. If you aren't playing a machine. If you are, then tough luck. But yeah, I would recommend bishop h5 maybe if you need a win in a game. Bishop h5 and then go for this pawn sack. With queen h4 and bishop d6. So now let's just see what happens if d4. Takes, takes, and h5. Knight c3. I don't like this already. Wait. Do I have to take on g4? Because I don't like it. It's just exchanging everything and it might give me some headache with this bishop on g6. So I mean, this exchange sack looks interesting, but am I getting anything to play for a win? I'm not so convinced. So on d4, knight e7. This one is a sore point. What happens if f6 takes, takes, e5? Wow. That's not nice. But wait, still, I mean, castle queenside, I know it's +1, but I would rely more on the visual, on the optical side. I think this is quite a good position for black. What do you think? Knight h6, f5, and similar ideas. So let's say bishop e3. Let's see if ideas are bull. So let's say f5, knight c3, knight h6. Still looks quite decent, and I cannot see why not to play this. So let's go back to the start. Bishop g4, h3, bishop h5. What else can we look for? Bishop d6. Well, we can go with the same Queen H4. Oh, but wait, I can... Somehow I find this... well. Find this good. I think this is okay for us. White is slightly overextended here. H5 might happen next. But let's see this interesting line. Takes, bishop g6, and now f4. Trying to get there, but now f5. En passant. Oh, if I go king f8, b3. And that's a bit of a problem, maybe. Bishop a3, and my pieces are not connected at all. And if king d7, then he might just force a draw with rook d2, but what, king c8, rook e2? Aha, it's not a draw. You could continue, but already it feels a bit not pleasant. White's pawns look much more mobile than black's on the queen side. Okay, let's scrap that. If I go for queen h4, we were looking at this, but from a different order. Wait, so bishop d6 might be... Yeah, we can go for this f6 line, which we looked at. Hg and then king g2, castle queenside, and bishop d6, f5. I think this is quite good. And also there's also ideas like g5, knight e7, knight g6, which could be decent. King d7 when? I think that's gonna be it. I'm gonna play at 9:30 Outpost tournament. Just gonna... do that. 9:30 Serbian time. And about the Ruy Lopez, I'm gonna do more streams about that. Like, I'm also researching this for the first time, so it's not really me presenting anything or anything like that, but just showing the process of of learning new openings. So yeah, I'm gonna see you in about 4 hours, and have a good one. Take care.